Hello, welcome to Making Every Lesson Count learning series brought to you by EMB Training and Consultancy Services. We aim to achieve and lead for God's glory. We provide training for school heads and educators in the academe and to corporate practitioners in the industry. I am Mrs. B, its Chief Learning Officer. This presentation focuses on meetings, how to conduct effective, efficient, and productive meetings. There are people who either love meetings or not like them at all. There are those who eagerly attend meetings, while others are less enthusiastic because they might be under the impression that meetings are just a waste of time. In fact, James Kirk, the captain of USS Enterprise, defined meetings as occasions where minutes are kept and hours are lost. And another, a writer says a meeting consists of a group of people who have little to say until after the meeting. That's from P.K. Shaw. You see, as necessary as meetings may be, the impact on organizations is not as great as people want to believe. Whether the meeting is virtual or face-to-face, no one present in the meeting should come to the point of saying that the meeting was a complete waste of time, of listening to someone who goes on and on, wondering what's the point, with attendees shooting down ideas, with some who may not be participating, or we're not hearing from them at all, those who don't contribute to decisions, yet the ones sometimes complain about decisions after a meeting, or a meeting that could have been accomplished in half the time, or in a meeting where one was not sure why there would be a meeting at all. And there are so many descriptions of why some meetings are not models of efficiency, energy, and enthusiasm. In fact, we have some statistics on unproductive meetings from high5.com, news.com, and Doodle's 2019 State of Meetings report, all conducted since the year 2010. And briefly, you would see that most of them are showing negative results, that let's say 2 to 4 people in 73% of meetings attend, or only 37 of the meetings use agenda, 73 to 92% multitask, and there is confusion and unclear actions, bad organization, among others. But let us remember, for meetings to be successful, they just don't happen. They need to be planned. Let us try to trace at this point the factors that could cause unproductive meetings. Dr. Rick Brinkman, in his book Dealing with Meetings You Can't Stand, enumerates 4 categories of factors that cause these kinds of meetings. They are people, preparation, process, and time. Let's start with people. As you can see, there are some behaviors that are manifested by different kinds of attendees or participants in a meeting. Maybe you have met some of them, those who dominate and those who don't say anything or are negative or who don't listen to other people or do not even show up. See, since our objective today is to have a meeting process that works, making them exciting and energizing, let us start our discussion with what is called a lens of understanding. This is an illustration of that lens of understanding. Understanding specific behaviors. When we understand why people act the way they do at meetings, it would be our first step to understanding what to do about it. Okay, in the center of this lens is the cooperation zone. When people are in that zone, there are no problems. Everyone has 4 basic intents in that meeting. Get it done, get it right, get along, and get appreciated. In the get it done mode, the behavior becomes focused on the task at hand, and they are more assertive as they push forward to make it happen. Those that are in the get it right mode would remain focused on the task, but they tend to be less assertive as they slow things down a bit because they want to make sure it is done correctly. They are into details. Now, if the attendees are in the get along mode, they would be people focused and tend to be more passive, yielding to others and considering the needs of others above their own. In the get appreciated mode, those people get to be focused because that is where appreciation comes from. They become more assertive as they try to contribute to others to receive appreciation. Now, if people are not getting what they need in a particular situation, they enter now this caution zone. Okay? The behavior becomes a bit extreme here because let's talk about the get it done. Those who are in the get it done mode, they see that things are not happening. So they tend to get more controlling. They want to take over in an effort to get it done. Those in the get it right mode would perceive others are not paying attention to the details. They compensate it by becoming more perfectionist. So let us do this. Number 1, I think we missed something here. So how about number 4? We cannot go on to the next step or to the next phase or to the next in the agenda because we forgot these details. Now the people that are in the get along mode, they get worried about potential conflict. See, they want to get along. They are also worried about disapproval of others. So their behavior would become more approval seeking. And if those in the get appreciated mode would feel others are not paying attention to them, their behavior becomes more attention getting. So, as we begin to pay attention to the people's behavior during meetings, we will notice, therefore, how they communicate and act out. The get it done would tend to be controlling. Those who are into details and want to get it right would be more of a perfectionist. Those who are in the get along mode would always seek approval, and those in the get appreciated would always seek attention to be appreciated. This caution zone, if you will really give an intent look at it, is not necessarily a problem. Sometimes they become solutions. That means, for example, somebody takes control and moves things forward, or someone will make sure all the details are covered. But if people get stressed out, they can enter another zone, the danger zone. The danger zone is reached once people really get stressed out. Let us try to examine what the behaviors are, where they originate, and why they are detrimental to a meeting. So, originating out of the desire of those who are in the get it done and controlling mode, they may result to showing behaviors of a tank, a sniper, or a know-it-all. When people become tanks, they will interrupt. They'll dominate and roll over others with their point of view. When they perceive that a situation is out of control and things are not getting done, then they go to such extreme that the people's feelings become secondary to moving forward. So sometimes they get so ruthless, they may attack others in the meeting personally, but ironically, it is really nothing personal. It's just that they perceive that people stand in the way of a result or are taking too long, so they simply eliminate them. Now, when they also get suppressed and a little angry, they become a sniper. They show some sniper form of behavior. It can be both verbal and nonverbal. Verbal sniping is that sarcastic comment, the sarcastic tone, or the barbed jab disguised as a joke. Malicious sniping also comes from suppressed resentment or anger and can control a meeting by having others live in fear of being shot. The nonverbal sniping can take the form of facial expressions, such as when the eyes are rolled or you see a smirk. Now, regardless, sniping still distracts from the purpose of the meeting by causing a lack of focus. It's also likely that others at the meeting might join in the sniping. Also, the know-it-all originates from that get-it-done and controlling mode. They are very knowledgeable and they use their knowledge to control things at the meeting. We said they are task-focused, but then they are not as task-focused as tanks. When you combine their knowledge with a big ego, you get a know-it-all who will go on and on, dominating the meeting. And of course, they would tend to be intimidating and condescending with their knowledge. So what would happen? Most people at the meeting will just give up trying to express themselves, or just simply say nothing. And they are detrimental in meetings because they waste time pontificating and they shut others down. Those in the get appreciated mode develop a need for attention, as we have mentioned. So they also can show behaviors like a grenade behavior, friendly sniping, and think they know all. So this behavior of think they know it all can be even more frustrating because they act like the know-it-alls, but they really don't know what they are talking about, I'm sorry to say. Remember, they just want to get appreciated. They even have a greater ego because they need to be the center of attention than the know-it-alls. And they're detrimental because they waste time going on and on to hear themselves talk. And sometimes they can mislead a group with bad ideas. So if others don't know the subject that the think they know-it-alls are talking about, it's just easy to follow them off a cliff and into the sea and just go by it. The grenade is a behavior that is a classic tantrum because they have bottled up a lot of stress and that their pin is pulled now because they feel they are not being listened to or their contribution is not being appreciated. So once the tantrum starts, everything else stops. The meeting has really ended. So the grenade could disrupt the meeting, and it would infuriate anyone who wants to get things done. So then the get things done people could easily turn into tanks. We also have friendly snipers, but friendly sniping at its nicest can be light-hearted teasing or put down humor. It's not really meant to hurt anyone because the teasing is a way of making a connection. However, still in the context of a meeting, it is a distraction. Now let us look into the other area in our lens of understanding, which is to get it right, and those who develop a need for perfection. Okay, remember, in our lens of understanding, it produces behaviors of whiners, of no people, and nothing people. So when we speak of whining, they see what could be, they compare it with what is. And it comes from the feeling of helplessness and disempowerment. And they feel that they are the victims of other people and circumstances. And they only look at what is wrong with ideas and dismiss them with generalizations. They could say that everything is wrong, it's always that way, and their complaining would deflate everyone else at the meeting, robbing them of their energy and creativity. The no behavior is negativity at its worst, and we know that it is no. It comes from the get it right and perfection mode. So it saps the creativity and energy of everyone at the meeting as well. Negativity is virulent behavior. So the no people won't think they did anything wrong, unfortunately. The nothing people, these are those who simply say nothing. Their behavior originates from that get it right and perfectionist frustration, and they give up and say, okay, fine, do it your way. From the get along mode, the ones who seek approval, if you don't have something to say, then don't say it at all. Because in this area, you get yes people, the maybe people, and those still who do not say anything. The yes behavior will avoid conflict at all costs. Remember, they want to get along. So what do? They suppress their true feelings and just go along with everyone else, leading to what kind of behavior? Some passive-aggressive behavior. So they just snipe because of their resentment. Okay? So the yes people sometimes would feel like victims and they would feel helpless. There is nothing else to do. They are happy to yield the floor to the more assertive ones, allowing them and their opinions to dominate. The maybe people are yes people actually, but they are faced with making a decision that could hurt someone's feelings. So since they don't want to do that, they will put the decision off until almost everybody would be able to have a unanimous decision. But sometimes it gets too late. Then the decision is made by default and they are not to blame. Now, after the meeting, it will only get worse because if people feel that their time was wasted, they will go into some other stress behavior. So from, let's say, get it done mode, they exhibit tank behavior. If they react feeling helpless or hopeless, then they might become a whiner and no people who will spread the misery to others who are not even at the meeting. So regardless of different kinds of behavior that is manifested by the participants in a meeting, everyone at a meeting still has something of value to contribute. And we need to put it all together so that we can get something greater. There is a need for an integration of the attendees' different points of views on any item on the agenda, and that would create a holographic thinking. It produces higher quality ideas and solutions. And if it is done quickly, we can meet less and do more. Because the more quickly and more completely we get everyone in a meeting to see everyone else's point of view, to see what the get it done wants to move forward, to see what the get it right wants to take note of details that have something to do with any of the items, the better able we will be avoiding conflict and generate higher quality ideas. Because once the points of view get to be different and there is unwillingness to integrate them, it would be a major source of conflict at meetings. To bypass the conflict and misunderstanding, the process needs to be in place that will integrate the different points of view. Thus, each get it done person, get it right person provides a balance between the two, integration of their views. The get along and get appreciated groups will also play his part to the best of his ability, When integrated with everyone, with all the team members doing the same, then it would produce a winning result, avoiding conflict, saving time, experiencing better teamwork and harmony, encouraging greater contributions from team members. Let us go to the next category or factor that causes unproductive meetings, and that is on preparation. You will see that there are two major things that are presented by the description of the preparation factor, and that is agenda and the right people. Let us now prepare for our meeting. Before the meeting, we need to first question, why are we going to hold a meeting? What is its purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? Like Simon Sinek's format of his finding the why of any person or of anything to blank so that blank. Is it for reporting? To merely report or present information to one another? Well, that could actually be better done in writing or in emailing or just a phone call. Having a meeting simply to disseminate info is not a good use of a meeting. One of the major legitimate reasons for having a meeting is what? For interaction, through discussion, brainstorming, questioning. So it should be given the information to be discussed. I mean, the people attending need that information ahead of time. There is an interesting study done by the Cambridge Psychological Society. They found out that the average person, 24 hours after any meeting, remembers only 9% of what was said. And of the 9% remembered, half of it is inaccurate. Why? Because we have a limited amount of attention. And it has been found out also that we can consciously be aware of 7 things, plus or minus 2, at any one time. Added to that are internal and external distractions, our personal filters, and our limited ability to remember, which decreases with age. So therefore, there is really a need to find out why. Why am I going to call for a meeting? The second one is the cost. Count the cost, not only direct or actual cost in pesos, but the cost of people's time. How about all the tasks that the attendees are not doing while they are at your meeting? Or time-benefit ratio. Is the amount of time spent on this meeting worth the benefit that results from the meeting? You also have to decide on the right format. Of course, now virtual meeting, we see to it that participants can see a shared screen, there is a webcam for a feeling of connection, and they can be focused, and they can eliminate multitasking, like secretly checking text messages and emails. The next one, I think, which is also important, is the attendee list. Consider who really needs to be there, because each agenda item must relate to everyone present. What would happen if you have 10 people present, but one item concerns only 6 of them? It will be equal to 4 bored people who will naturally look for a diversion. So we need to remember that if we need to make a decision, all necessary people should be present. We can have doers and deciders, resource people, and need to know people. So when can they get into the meeting? When will we need resource people? Or these attendees are doers and deciders. And of course, very important for preparation is to create the agenda. When we speak of the agenda, we ask who creates it, who is responsible to create it. Because once items are submitted, his responsibility will be to prioritize, because he will be receiving all the items that need to be discussed. Remember, we have to find out what is the purpose of the meeting, and therefore When you create it, you prioritize, and all the items that are going to be submitted have something to do with the purpose. And the meeting itself has a finite amount of time. And therefore, each of the items in your agenda needs a certain amount of time. You see to it that everyone knows the criteria to get an item on the agenda. You have a format of what is to be submitted. You have a criteria that makes items worthy of being in the agenda. You have to know, does it require group interaction? Does it involve everyone in the meeting? Of course, consider, as we've mentioned earlier, the time-benefit ratio. You establish a cut-off time submitting items for the agenda, and we will not accept those who submit late. We do not reward procrastination. And then we decide ideal points for distribution. How will it be given to all the attendees if there are many attendees and materials that they need to prepare? The next factor or category is on process. So based on the agenda that you have prepared, that was created based on everyone's contributions, then you now go to the process of conducting the meeting. So there are things that you have to set ground rules, that there would be no phones and no side conversations, no multitasking, because it's very vital that everyone will stay focused. All the more, we need to have a lot of preparation for this process because we are conducting virtual meetings more often than not nowadays. And it's hard to navigate with the people from different homes and from different places while they attend the meeting. The other factor is time. So time, there is actually, a military expression which says if you are not early, you're late. So, of course, these are the concerns why the meetings become unproductive, like those not starting on time and people arriving late, and it's too long, insufficient time planned for topics. So this time factor need to be incorporated in the agenda that we have mentioned earlier, because every agenda item needs specific time, and we will have to consider the time against the time of the whole meeting. And remember, the average meeting is from 30 to 60 minutes. We can also start at unusual times, but one thing important is this catching people up who are late. Let us not catch up latecomers on what has been discussed. Or we can ask somebody, okay, say what has been discussed for the benefit of. No, that is a no-no in a well-prepared, processed meeting. So there are some meetings that are conducted standing up. So maybe then that will be really hitting the target, or it will really be short and straight to the point. So we have identified 4 factors that could cause unproductive meetings: people, preparation, process, and time. Speaking of process, let us focus our presentation on having effective virtual meetings. Based on our discussion as the fundamentals of any meeting, face-to-face or virtual, number 1 is a need for doing extra preparation, because we have to connect to Skype or FaceTime or Zoom. We cannot expect meetings to run the same way they would if everyone was together in a room. So rather than spending time online going over information, please do send out any document or information you want to cover at least 2 days in advance. Then use the time together online to answer questions, make decisions, or discuss the material. You also have to set the ground rules because it is especially important online. because we cannot read each other's body language or pick up on the fidgeting that might otherwise indicate something is going off the rails. So we need to decide what would be the speaking order, and we stick to it, because it's very easy to start talking over each other online. So there must be certain rules, like when do you start talking and when do you end, and how would you know that it would be your turn. So there, set a hard timeline for each agenda item and decide what critical decisions or goals need to be made. We also have to start with a check-in question. These are suggestions for effective meetings. What does this mean? So maybe 2 minutes per person. You can set a timer for the participants to share something about themselves and their situation. Like before you start the formal meeting, all the items in the agenda. For example, you can ask, what is something that has gone really well for you this week? Or what is the traditional family remedy or prevention for illness that you've been thinking about recently? So there is a need to use the time to see how people are feeling, both physically and emotionally, especially during these turbulent times. Then in this meeting, you also have to give everyone a role, because it's way too easy to check out when you're sitting in front of a screen. So you try to include everyone by assigning different jobs. That's why everyone means all the people attending the meeting. So that is why that attendee list is very important. Whether you're going to get doers and deciders, need to know people, or just resource people. You may have a note taker, a timekeeper, a facilitator, and a facilitator especially, to call on people based on assigned speaking order, and other tasks that need handling. So if you're planning to have lots of meetings online, you switch notes around so everyone has a chance to do each job. Rotate the assignments. Also slow down and make space. Sometimes when it comes to technology glitches, there is a 1, 2 to 3 second delay, especially if you have more than 5 or 6 people attending. You would know the internet bandwidth of each one. Then maybe you have to give space for replies, for answering questions, for them to be able to hear what it is that you're saying. Because meeting on a computer screen and these glitches or environmental distractions even at home can make online engagements feel hectic and disjointed. So one way to help them focus, to ask everyone to turn off notifications. Sometimes emails and sometimes cell phones. We hear that also even on television when there are IATF meetings or any other group government meetings. We hear different kinds of sounds or blips that keep on popping up. We keep the pace of the meeting also on the slower side, allowing more time than you might do during an in-person session. Because remember, our purpose for calling for a meeting is to allow discussions, questions, and transitions. You also can split up the group. Zoom, WebEx, and other online tools will allow you to create breakout rooms. But it can also be done even though there is no breakout room in the app that you're using, to pause the meeting and have people pair up, talk over the phone, or just doing some message service, or writing on chat boards, as long as we provide more opportunity for participation. You can also pause at intervals to give participants time to reflect. Like, for example, you may ask, what information from the things that we have discussed so far, agenda items 1 to 3, what was most useful to you? What questions do you still have there? Then take a minute to write down your thoughts, or write it down on the chat board, or if there are other questions that are related to that. Because we need to just focus on the agenda items and discussions about them. So give them time to reflect. If we give them time to think about the question that you would pose in a meeting face to face, then all the more we need time for this virtual meeting. Another suggestion is for you to close your meeting with another brief share out. Like, for example, this time, after the meeting, a checkout question would be, what is that one aha you had during this session? Or how are you going to use what you heard or learned here today in your work? So, because it is online, because we will not want to have the nothing people present, we will want to give everyone attending a chance so that there will be really interactive participation. And of course, you need to follow up. So after the meeting, sometimes in a face-to-face meeting, we would still be staying behind or talk to the manager or talk to the CEO or director or whoever is leading the group or your team. Then you may still have some follow-up questions, but this is online. So we need to create an intentional opportunity for further connection. But it could be done by sending a follow-up email. You can have supporting documents or notes or action items, or you can get the feedback of the attendees on the session through a brief survey. So what worked for you about this session, then they can share it with one another. What do you still want to know? Then they can share it with one another through emails or chat boards or messages. What suggestions do you have for our future meetings? See, these are all vital in effective virtual meetings. So to summarize, remember, we get the right people on the bus. We send out an agenda before the meeting starts. We be prepared and set a good example, on time, logging in and out on time, and at the same time be respectful, be very clear in what it is that you really want to target in your virtual meeting. Always keep your desired outcomes in mind, and end by a summary of outcomes and assignments. My dear colleagues, virtual meetings are not really here to stay, but for the meantime, they are with us. We need to conduct them, and they can be very effective. It's a must now during this outbreak. Although really it takes a little bit of extra effort, especially at first, if you're not accustomed to this format for a meeting, let us rest assured that with a little practice, these sessions can be just as powerful as in-person meetings if you put a few simple structural rules and practices in place. Remember, the factors are people. How can we be able to relate to different kinds of behavior that can be present among the participants? The preparation, and we have outlined it in detail. The process, how are we going to go about it? And the time, because everyone has only 8 hours in the office or in a virtual office or in any work day. So these 4 factors need to really be integrated, not only the different kinds of people and their differing points of view. If we are willing really to embrace all that technology has to offer to help us remain connected, we will be able to both stay safe and healthy and still get our work done with our colleagues. And who knows, you may realize that, this format works even better than in person, even better than we expected. And with plus minus improvements, we can continue the virtual gatherings even after the danger has passed. We can even continue a work from home mode. Let us remember what Paul Mayer also said, that productivity is never an accident. It's always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. We need to pray for God's guidance, the wisdom that comes from above, and of course, the energy to go through each day, even though we are in the midst of this pandemic. We know that we are going to get through these problems and we will be able to provide help to one another. But still, because we have a mission to accomplish in each of our respective offices, organizations, or schools, we should never get tired of doing everything as proper and good, because at the right time we will be able to reap a harvest if we do not give up. Thank you very much. We make every lesson count. You can email me at emb@achieveandlead.com, and you can also visit EMB Training and Consultancy Services Facebook page. Listen to our podcasts, which happen weekly, every Wednesday, and notes are also available upon request. Thank you, and may God bless everyone.